Today we're going to be installing Thunder Products Dial-A-Jet on this KLR650, which is my KLR650, only it's not a 650, it's a 692 by way of a big bore kit that I've installed. I bought this bike 5 years ago for the total sum of $222. It was wrecked, front end was crushed, the forks were broken, wheel was tacoed, and I bought a front end off of eBay, a wheel off of eBay, and went from there. And this bike has been an evolution since then. Every year I put $500–600 into it, maybe $1,000 on a big year, and do some upgrades. Therefore, I have good brakes, I have good suspension, I have better lighting, I have a much nicer seat, I have a windshield that doesn't act like a guillotine if the front end comes up, better tires. Now, why am I going to install this Dial-A-Jet on my KLR692, and what does it do? The Dial-A-Jet, as the name implies, is a dial adjustable jet system that can be mounted on a carburetor. Now, the system is external on the carburetor mostly. You may have to drill holes and tap your carburetor. Now, I've got a Dial-A-Jet on my 1982 Yamaha IT250, and that's turned out very well. That bike runs very well, very crisp, even with the stock banged up pipe, which we'll be addressing here soon. That will be on this channel. And the results of that were very good. I was very impressed. That bike will lug down to the very lowest revs in the RPM range, and it revs crisply up through the RPMs with a nice pull and a little power band hit where the front end likes to start to lift, and by the time it gets very high, it's just kind of turned to a nice pull and the wheel settles down. Now, I would like a Dial-A-Jet on this bike because since I've installed this 692 kit, my jetting is about right. I think it's just a little lean, judging from the color of the spark plug. And soon, within a week or two, I'll be installing hot camshafts in this bike. That's something I've not seen on YouTube on any KLR650s, and so I am going to install them on this bike and give you a report on how that does. Now, this bike is torn down, carburetor's on the desk over there, and we'll go over there and start installing the Dial-A-Jet, and I'll show you that process, and we'll get that on this bike, and then we'll test it out. And hopefully it won't be snowing. Oh, we're here at the desk, and I've got the carburetor here on the desk beside me. This is going to be a pretty easy process on this carburetor. No drilling. We just have to install a fitting in the bottom where your carburetor drain screw goes. So this one will be much easier. The IT I had to drill and tap, and it wasn't bad. All stuff I've done before. If you're new to that, it might be a little daunting. But this system gives you the ability to tune your carburetor externally, which is very nice. It's an external fuel circuit. It's probably a better way of describing what it is. So you can adjust your jetting by a dial externally and make up for altitude changes, high flow air filter, cams, exhaust, all those kinds of things, which I wanted the ability to do, not because I'm doing a lot of that, but because we change altitude a lot. We are about 4,600 feet here in Hiram, Utah, and the highest I've been on this bike is, I think, maybe 9,500 feet, 10,000 maybe. So it'd be nice to have the ability to just dial that in if I needed to, if I'm taking a long ride. This year I plan to do the Wyoming BDR. We're doing that with my cousin and some of his friends, and they all have big and nice bikes, husky Norden 901s, KTMs. Those bikes have a lot of power, and I hope to gain some power because of this. It operates on a vacuum principle, so if there's a vacuum present, it's pulling emulsified fuel, emulsified with air, into the intake of the carburetor, or the back of the carburetor. So the system does mix air and fuel, and that emulsification goes into your engine, which is good. You get finer particles that way, you get a little better combustion, you get better fuel economy, and you should make more power. Now let's get this carburetor apart and get going on this thing. So here we have the Dial-A-Jet box. This is what it came in. They have several products. They have something called a ATVs, which is something you can adjust up on your handlebars, make changes in real time. That's kind of cool, although it does require running hoses up to your handlebars, which carry fuel. Maybe better on older snowmobiles and older, maybe a quad, I don't know. Torque wing, UFOs, airbox valves, and we've got the Dial-A-Jet. And this is our installation manual. It's not bad, there's not a ton of info in there. These are the other products they have. If you go to their website, under products, I believe it's just thunderproducts.com, you can look through all those. And if you have an older machine with maybe an older style round slide carb, or even a flat slide, you can add this on. But I think the older carbs probably benefit carbs without an accelerator pump. Now this is what they call a snorkel kit. This cap clicks on over top, or goes on over top your Dial-A-Jet, which I'll show you in a second. And then you have a snorkel hose and a little air filter. And they say you should use this kit if you're, riding off-road in the dirt. Otherwise the Dial-A-Jet will plug up with air. So we'll be installing that. I ordered a one-way check valve for the fuel. I don't think I need that. I may or may not install that, but I thought it'd be nice to have. Now this is the Dial-A-Jet itself. The instructions say that you should install this either at 12 o'clock or as far as 2 o'clock or 10 o'clock on the carburetor. Now I will probably install this on my air boot, just on this side of the carburetor, not on the rim of the carburetor. For me, I think that's just a better option. I don't want to drill, although you can drill and tap that, install that there, and you'd have to drill your air boot and your clamp as well, so this can go through those. And your air boot will still fit and seat fully. You'll just have a little hole in the side. I think I'll just put it at 12 o'clock. I think it's going to be something like this, 12 o'clock on the air boot. Now, you have to pull fuel from somewhere, so older carburetors, the old two-strokes, have a nut down here to drain the float bowl or access the jets. I drilled that on my IT, and I installed a small fitting, which was that fitting there. This kit comes with a fitting that will fit this drain screw right here. So we'll be installing this in this float bowl. This is a base pad or a seal. Now the first thing we'll do is to remove this float bowl. And there we are. Still looks pretty clean in there. That's good. No ethanol gasoline. Ethanol separates out in systems that are not pressurized. So say a motorcycle carburetor. Ethanol will begin to separate within a few weeks. Now, we'll grab this fitting here that's going to screw into the float bowl where the drain plug goes. What I don't want is a leak. And that's obviously open into the carburetor, into the float bowl. So let's see if we have any leak around there. I don't know that I want to install or put any thread lock or any other compound on there if I don't need it. So that looks pretty good. I see no leaks. So this is installed. In thinking about that, I think it's just a tapered point with a hollow feature, and it seals there, so even if the threads are not sealed, as long as it's sealed where this would seal inside the carburetor bowl, then you've got a gas tight seal. So now we can put the carburetor back together. Okay, and that's pretty much it for this carburetor. We've got that installed. Now we just need to put a hole in our intake boot and mount that Dial-A-Jet, and then it's just a matter of running this fuel line up to the Dial-A-Jet. So we'll be mounting this Dial-A-Jet, turn this upside down, right here. And it will be out of the way of the boot clamp. It's not going to be easily accessible in order to change the jetting settings, which is downside, but there's not another good place. The frame's kind of in the way. If I try to fit it in here, I influence the boot down, so that doesn't seem like a good idea. So it's going to go up here on top, and that should clear the frame. The kit does come with a little piece of metal that's been shaped inside, so it's a cutter, so it's kind of like a punch, a hole punch, like you'd do for leather or whatever. I have it in my drill. I think I should put something inside there so I'm not pushing against my finger, and then we'll put that in. These tubes do thread out, and they can be changed. You can get tubes with larger holes. There's the hole, only one it looks like. So you can get tubes with large holes, or you can simply adjust that yourself for more fuel. Okay. Now we are going to mount the Dial-A-Jet to this zip tie they've sent us, and it includes a screw. Okay. Okay, so this is pretty well ready to go. What we'll do is we'll get that lined up on top and start that down through there. This does have a captive nut there, what this threads into, so it'll thread down in there. We'll kind of push it down in there in place. Not terribly critically important that it's down there flush or tight against the boot, of course, but we'll do our best. Gonna get that started around. I put the insulation on there. It looks like we can cut a bunch of that off. I'll probably just take that off because I don't think that's going to be an issue at all. And that big zip tie will actually fit in this area on the boot pretty nicely, so that will not be a problem. Start that, and so in some of the literature that I had read along with this, in researching this, it said that this system would deliver fuel in times of lean conditions. So on these bikes there's no accelerator pump, so you would just, there is an air cut circuit, but you would have a lean condition, a little bit of lean condition when you accelerate. Now these are constant vacuum carburetor. The secondary opens up relatively slow compared to something that has a linkage, and so that isn't as much of a problem, but there's probably a little bit of a hit or a little bit of power to be had there, a little bit of performance to be made up for. So this unit is on this Dial-A-Jet is on the middle setting. There's 5 or 6, 7, 8 settings. Counterclockwise is leaner, clockwise is richer. So while I've got this here, I'm going to install the snorkel kit. This part goes over the dial, not over the brass screw here. So we can just put that down on there. We have a little air filter that goes on the end of the tube. When we get it up to the top there, we have that in the bag. And we have this snorkel, and that'll be long enough, so this goes basically down in there. And just locate it up inside the headset there. And we'll also put this little filter over the top. I don't know how much good that will do, but I'll use it. I haven't had issues with my IT. It's ran perfectly since I've installed it, so I don't know how critical that whole thing is. Some of this might get moved around when I do my camshafts. So now we'll do the fuel line, and that's pretty easy. I have to decide where to run, how to run it. And it's on. Okay. Now there is a company There's a company called Mikuni Oz out of Australia, and they make a kit to adapt a 42 millimeter Mikuni carburetor to this bike. They make one for the DR650. Not sure what else, DRZ 400 I believe. And that is supposed to be an impressive upgrade. Now the reason I'm going to try this first is to see if I can get some of that performance. But I don't want the big hit of power that a direct slide carburetor would give. I want a little bit of finesse. It's like I ride a lot of sort of technical places, a lot of technical rides on this bike, and it's got enough low end, a KLR650, it's all low end, but it's got enough low end that I don't want a big hit on the low end, because I don't want to break traction. I don't want to bring the front wheel up if I don't want to. So I'm going to try this first, see how this works out. I may do a Mikuni Oz carburetor in the future, to be decided. We'll see how this turns out. Want enough slack there so that can definitely seat and it's not going to influence your idle. So there's an issue. Maybe we'll have to figure something else out here. Pretty tight space on this bike. Not a lot of room. You don't want to crush that either. So it's out of the way. We'll see what happens with the exhaust right there. That could be an issue. Maybe I could put some That's good quality hose, by the way. Yeah. So let's trim this down a little bit. We'll put some insulation over it. That should help things a little bit. Okay. Carburetor lives pretty close to the exhaust anyways, you know what I mean? So we are there. Need to tighten up these nuts and then put the tank on and fire her up. Oh yeah! Take a minute because the carburetor's empty and I have to have vacuum to get the fuel valve to open. All right, well, the result is that it revs a little more freely. It has a little more power. These have great low-end power. They don't love revving, but it seems like it likes to get up in those upper RPMs a little bit more. I mean, it redlines at, what, 7,000? Sorry, 7,500. These are old technology. That's also one of the reasons why they run so long. They're not a high-stress engine, but it does rev a little more freely. It has more power. Not a ton, but it has more pull as you gain RPM. So I think it's a win. I will put some more miles on it, and then when I do the cams, I'll pull the spark plug again and see what the spark plug looks like.